Hi, how are you both?
Hi.
Hi.
Good. How are you?
Um, I'm well, thank you. Guardians is awesome, and I'm sure that's no surprise to you, but that was such a great movie, and so I just
We
want to get
agree.
started. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying we agree. We think it's awesome too.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I just want to get started with, since you are playing these two villains, um, what kind of sort of backstory did you have create for yourselves in terms of, because they're, I mean, obviously they've been altered by the High Evolutionary as well. So what kind of backstory did you have for them and Theel?
Well, I mean, I kind of saw her as someone who views herself as an impartial scientist, right? Like an observer, because that's what they are. They record. They're not here to get emotionally involved. They're here for purposes, a greater purpose, which is the science of it, right? The creation of it. She's a zealot. And believes herself and their mission to be the highest possible order. So that was kind of my way in. And I don't really believe I don't believe that about anything except maybe science. So I was like, okay, if I can view her as someone who really believes in the science of this, then I can sort of get on board with this.
Yeah. I mean, wonderful answer. All of that, what Miriam said.
Yeah.
I think for Teal, I also saw him as sort of like a survivalist. He is survival at any cost, and his proximity to power is what he really was sort of like getting off on, and the fact that he was like one of the top henchmen for the High Evolutionary, and could sort of like act in a very evil and malicious way, knowing that this guy's gonna kick everybody's ass, because he's doing his bidding, was sort of like another layer that I wanted to put on Teal, because he is sort of just like, you can't touch me. This guy's gonna protect me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who's gonna mess with the High Evolutionary? Nobody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, and the High Evolutionary is a terrifying guy. And then you guys do deviate throughout near the end of the film, and then obviously Teal meets a very explosive end, and Vim takes her other. So, what can you say about filming your final scene when you're filming with Chris Pratt and obviously Groot? But so what can you tell me about your final moments and why that was all was sort of predestined for
Well,
you, I guess?
when I read the script, I was like, wow, that is one way to die. That is really just like a death. But I don't know, like we were just talking about this earlier. That day was such a big day on set. We had the scenes with Miriam and Chuck, and Chris Pratt, and Greed was there. You had all the recorder guards and the other recorders, and the huge set, and like stunts and like explosions happening. It was probably the most like the one moment where I was like, I am in a Marvel movie, because everything that you see in Marvel movies is currently happening right now. And it was really just one of those pinch me moments, sort of like, I cannot believe this is freaking happening. This is so cool. So, I mean, that was mostly what was going through my head during that day.
You remember that giant fan that day?
Oh my God.
They brought in this fan,
Yes.
and okay, so when I say giant fan, picture a fan. I know you're picturing a giant fan, not someone who enjoys the movies, but like a machine that's it's like 1,000 times bigger than that. And we were like, what? And then they turn it on and they're all like glowing. I mean,
You're like,
that is a metaphor for how big this is, for the bigness and the most Marvel-esque of all these moments. That was a really
you're like, how many Beyoncés do we have on set today? Because that fan is really huge.
So huge. I remember that. I was just like,
yeah.
I mean, that's the dream. But for you, Miriam, when you're doing, Vim obviously takes a different route. She plans, well, not sort of plans, but she decides to rebel near the end, and when she realizes the High Evolutionary has gone too far. So, what was your sort of mindset going into those final scenes? And obviously, the outcome is what the outcome is. But what was your sort of like decision to where that?
maybe she's okay. No. I'm kind of fascinated by what leads people to follow the worst people in the world in real life, and this was like a safe space to ask that question, which is kind of what sci-fi does best, is ask those big questions. And you can have fun doing it, but it is a big question. It is a question we should be asking, because no leader can achieve anything unless there are followers and people who do their bidding. And that's how the worst evil gets done, is with followers. And so I was curious of that moment when a person realizes, oh no, I'm going over the edge now, and I don't want to. I want to put the brakes on this. Like, that moment is very intense. Also, the whole movie is questioning what you were created to do, right? Like, that's about questioning your creator, and the High Evolutionary is our creator. So that's kind of the through line throughout the whole movie, is this idea of like, who made me? Why was I made this way? And do I have to follow the destiny that was determined by how I was created, and she tries to alter it. It's a valiant effort.
Yeah. No, she makes. I mean, someone had to take a stand.
Yeah.
But
Kudos, Vim.
yeah, and I mean, obviously Chuck does what he does, but
Yeah.
and then you get
Oh no.
and then you're working with James Gunn, who is obviously like this is a movie's been 6 years in the making, give or take, since the last one. So there's like, I think you see it on social media, you see, at least from my end, I see it on social media, but you guys actually got to work with him firsthand. What is it like working with him as your director, and why, I don't know, like he elicits sort of a sense of loyalty that you don't see amongst a lot of actor director combos.
Yeah, because it's a dream to work with him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dream. He was so welcoming. We're new to this, I felt welcomed in. I felt accepted. I felt like he valued what I brought. I felt like he was here to play,
Mhm.
the best possible way. He wanted me to bring what I brought, and he respected and appreciated it. And, on a project this enormous, that's not a given.
Yeah.
It's a big ship to captain. So,
Yeah.
it all kind of comes from him. I think that's why everyone is like, yeah, I'll follow him wherever he goes. He elicits that kind of loyalty, because he creates the way you feel when you're in a darkened theater and you're a kid and that screen lights up and you believe in the possibility of whatever could happen. It's kind of that's the vibe he brings on set,
Yeah.
You can tell he loves his kids.
It's a really intimidating set to walk into, because it's such a beloved franchise. James Gunn is a legendary director. The cast is like, these are all huge movie stars, and so walking into that type of environment, you just don't know what you're going to get, and how welcoming people are going to be, and and not just with James, but like every single person, from Chris Pratt to Zoe to everybody, like the department heads, everybody wanted to make sure that we were comfortable, that whatever they could do to make sure that we were giving them the performance that we needed to give, and that we were doing our job correctly. Nobody made us feel stupid for asking for something, or asking a question, or wondering how we should approach a scene. It was all very, very collaborative. And those experiences, especially for movies as big like this, aren't a given. So to be able to have that experience for a project this huge is mind blowing and phenomenal.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, and so both of you are in heavy. You're basically unrecognizable in the movie. So like,
that's
how
actually
long
my natural look, and this.
Yeah, what do you say? We were not wearing makeup for that movie.
But yeah, so how long did it sort of take you to get into the prosthetics and the makeup, and what was your day like arriving on set and till you're ready to shoot?
Was it about 3 hours? Was it a little less for you, or was
It was a little less for me. We started off, we got it down to 2.5, and then towards the end of the shoot, it was down to 2 hours. But it was a process. It was like, you got to get your hair cut. They cut our hair very short so we could fit in the bald cap. So there was the haircut, then there was the prosthetics, then all the makeup, and it really was. And obviously, getting the prosthetics made, we had like that session at Legacy Studios where we had the cast and everything. It was like, I don't know, it was such a surreal experience having to go through these fittings and cast makings and all that stuff. It was
I
wonderful.
love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love sitting in a makeup chair and seeing yourself at the end and not recognizing yourself and seeing something so completely other than yourself. It's psychologically real strange, but at the same time, I love it. You know, it helps get
Yeah.
you in the mindset. You're supposed to be in another galaxy. You know, it really
Yeah.
helps you get there. You feel other, you know, you feel like you're from another galaxy, you know. So
It's
it's
such
so
a
fun.
Yeah, it's such a definitive way to get into character. I think for other roles that we played, and I don't know if you feel like this, Miriam. You know, obviously I've never really played an alien being before, so getting into character was a different process. But like with this one, going through that process every day of putting on the prosthetics and makeup, and then seeing yourself, you know, like in full regalia, you're just like, oh, okay. Then you can sort of seep into it
Yeah.
and be ready.
Everything
be
about
evil.
it. I love the costume and the makeup, everything that, you know, like I come from theater, so everything that I can use to sort of give myself tools to get to some, you know, to feel different, to feel like I can jump into that character. I love it. Makes me, and you know, being a fan, getting to go to Legacy and get a cast done and then go into the workshop and see how they do it. My God, I was in heaven. It was like Willy Wonka. Just walked in there and was
I
like, oh my
know.
God, I'm home.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you so much, Nico. I really appreciate your time.
Thank
This has been
you.
great. And congratulations on Guardians. The movie's just awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.